I'm Angie Thomas, and you're watching Clique Talk.
Let's go. Walk it like I talk it. Walk it like I talk it. You walk it like I talk it. Walk it like I talk it. Hey.
Hi, Angie.
Hi.
You live in Jackson, Mississippi, where you were born and raised. You used to rap when you were a teenager, before turning to a career as an author. In 2016, you published your first book, The Hate You Give, which gets its name from a quote from Tupac Shakur and talks about police brutality. It turned into a phenomenon. We're really happy to have you at Clique. Since its release, it's been on the number 1 or number 2 spots on the New York Times bestseller list. It was successfully adapted in Hollywood. And today we're happy to welcome you in France for the release of your second book, On the Come Up, which tells the story of a young female rapper. Can I play you one song, and one song only?
Yes.
Also hard, got a broke clock, rollies that don't tick-tock. All the Mars that's losing time, hidden behind all these sick rock. Also hard, I'm shocked too. I'm supposed to be locked up too. You escape, but I escape. You need asking, duck too. Also hard, let's get memories for like 6 days. Gold bottle, slow model, spin an ace on my 6 shades. Also hard, behave. I just might let you be gay. Chi-town, T-Road, I'm moving the next. Let's go. Also hard, brothers wanna find me. That's the crack. That's the Christ. That's the crack. Also hard, brothers wanna find me. That's the Christ. That's the Christ.
That was the perfect song to open this with.
In your new book, this song is the first beat to which your female hero, Brianna, raps to, or is supposed to rap to. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the first beat you rapped to?
I do remember the first beat I rapped to. The first beat that I ever rapped to or wrote my own rap to was, I thought I knew it. Wait, let me make sure I got it. Bounce With Me by Little Bow Wow.
Little Bow Wow, really?
Little Bow Wow, yeah. Yeah, he was 13, I was 13, and I thought he was the best rapper of all time at that point. And I made up my own rap to the beat of his first song. So that was the first one where I sat down and wrote a rap. But I wouldn't say it was the first rap song that I ever learned. Like, the first rap song I ever learned was I Got the Hookup by Master P.
Oh, really? The New Orleans sound?
Yeah,
really
yeah.
into the No Limit Records guys.
Yeah. I'm from Mississippi, and New Orleans is only a 3-hour drive from my hometown. So New Orleans music, New Orleans rap music was always a big influence on me and the young people around me. So like Master P and then Cash Money, those were like the big rappers that I listened to then. That's all that everybody in my neighborhood was listening to.
Now that you've told me this, I'm almost disappointed that your book cover doesn't look like a No Limit record.
You know, I'm going to throw that out there as an idea for the next go-around. It should look like one of those over-the-top No Limit or Cash Money covers where, like, the letters are in gold and platinum and diamond.
Can we talk about the rhyme? If you escaped what I escaped, you'd be in Paris getting fucked up too. I can say that, I'm French.
Yes.
How does it feel to be in Paris promoting your books?
You know, it's been an amazing experience coming here to Paris and especially meeting young people who have connected with my books. You know, the thing about Americans, and I can admit this, is we're very self-absorbed. And what I mean by that is we don't realize that there are people who are going through the same things that we're going through in other parts of the world. And so when I was writing both of my books, The Hate You Give and On the Come Up, I was more so thinking about the kids in my old neighborhood and the kids in neighborhoods like it in America who would connect with it. But I came here and I'm meeting kids who are dealing with the same things and kids who are talking to me about police brutality experiences right here in Paris. And it opened my eyes to a world greater than my own. And so I'm appreciative of them sharing their experiences with me. And more so than that, I'm appreciative of the fact that they took the time to read my books and they connected with them.
Yeah, I heard that you were in the Aubervilliers neighborhood this morning, and I think it's cool that you met these kids.
Yeah, that was a great experience going to the school, talking with the kids. They have a lot of questions about life in America and what it's like because I guess they see things on television or hear things in rap songs, and that's not the full picture, and they want to speak to somebody that actually lives there and has experienced those things. So it was great, and they tried to teach me some French slang.
You remember any words?
I don't, but I know that they were saying like they have started like flipping the words around, so almost saying them backwards, so to speak. Yeah, and that's the thing. So I thought that was really cool.
That's
you know.
le verlan. We call it verlan.
Ah.
You flip the syllabs in the word.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We're not that creative in America.
On a lighter note, you mentioned Little Bow Wow. Can we start with a very serious question? Your top 5 MCs.
Top 5 MCs.
And I have to stress that I say MCs, not rappers. And I didn't specify any gender.
Okay, I love that. I love that. My top 5 in no particular order, and I'm gonna go with, these have to be rappers who, for me, my top 5, the big criteria is that they've been in the music industry more than 15 years. Because I feel like once you hit a certain level, that's when you can be in somebody's top 5 when you've been in the game a while. So my top 5 would have to be, of course, Tupac, Biggie.
Can we see your socks?
Oh, I don't know if you can see them really good
maybe
right
later.
now.
Yeah, people don't see it, but you have Tupac socks.
I have Tupac socks on, you all. And I mean, they have like the bandana and everything. And he's throwing up the West Side sign. So I showed the kids my socks earlier and they just thought they were the best thing. But yeah, so Tupac, Biggie, Nas, Lauryn Hill, and this is hard to go with number 5, but I'm just gonna have to split my number 5, Jay-Z or Andre 3000. As a Southerner, I have to throw Andre 3000 in there. Outkast did something amazing, and they showed that the South had something to say.
I've read that you had a love relationship with hip-hop. In every love relationship, there are arguments sometimes. And you say that you could also be one of the biggest criticizers of the hip-hop culture.
Yes.
What makes you angry about it sometimes?
Ooh, there are things that definitely make me angry about hip-hop. It angers me that hip-hop objectifies women. It angers me that rappers do not take what they do more seriously in the sense of their responsibility. It angers me that hip-hop sometimes glorifies the wrong things and doesn't talk enough about the consequences as much as it does the actions. It doesn't talk about the consequences nearly as much. I think about something Future, the rapper Future recently said. This was before Juice WRLD passed away. He was saying that Juice WRLD told him that he got into drinking lean and stuff like that and drugs because he heard Future talking about it, and it really hit Future hard, and he realized what an impact he was having on kids, and now that young man is dead from drug overdose. So I wish more rappers had that Future moment where they realize they have power, they have responsibility. And I'm not saying be a role model, but I'm just saying if you're going to talk about the flashiness of it, talk about going to court, talk about the possibilities of overdose. You know, that's one thing I could say rappers in the 90s did. Tupac, he talked about the quote unquote gangster lifestyle, as they want to say. But he also talked about seeing his friends in a casket and running from death and being afraid of dying. So I need more balance in that sense from hip hop.
This is a common theme between your 2 books, the responsibility of having your own voice. And the responsibility it implies when you stand up and you speak for something. How was it for you to find your own voice?
I don't think I found my voice until I wrote my first novel. Writing that book, Writing the Hate You Give, really helped me recognize, wow, I'm writing a book about a young lady who finds her voice. Maybe I have a voice myself. Maybe this is me using it. It honestly took me becoming an author to be comfortable with speaking up and speaking out and making people uncomfortable. So my goal, though, is that every young person who reads my books, they come to that realization much sooner than I did. It took me a while to realize that I had an opinion that was worth something and that was valuable and that I had a voice worth using. So I want them to realize it sooner than I did. I wanted to express myself when I was a teenager. That's why I tried to become a rapper. But I still didn't think that what I had to say was valuable. And so I questioned it, and you could tell in the way that I wrote my raps. But I think now I'm more comfortable with speaking up and speaking out.
You mentioned your raps. I saw you rap one of Bryce's verses on a video.
Yeah.
Taken from a book.
Yes.
I was wondering if those verses were inspired by your previous verses as a rapper.
Not really. I don't honestly remember anything that I wrote when I was a rapper. I destroyed all of my notebooks and all of the demo tapes because they were awful.
Come on.
Well, my mom may have something somewhere, but that's it. But I for these raps, I did a lot of research, and I listened to my favorite rappers and really studied their lyrics, and in some ways tried to mimic them and their styles when I was writing Bree's raps. So it was a brand new thing from beginning to end.
Can I ask you if you feel like rapping some bars?
I had a feeling you were gonna ask that. I did. I did have a
so
feeling.
obvious,
I was
know.
like, one rap that I really liked writing in the book was Bree's second battle rap, when it was mimicked after a rap by a MC named Big Pun. Rest in
love him.
peace, Big Pun. And his flow in this song was one of the best she's ever heard, and honestly, I feel the same way. So
Super technical MC.
yes. So hers was kind of like. I gotta remember how it went. Okay. No, so it was like, ready for war, Miles. Now you fucked up this time. Should address this cipher to the biter, the writer who really wrote them rhymes. Come at Brianna, you wanna get buried. Spit like a legend, feminine weapon. I reckon your own father's worried. Bow down, baby, get down on your knees. You got paper, but I'm greater. Ask your click, and while you at it, act supreme. Straight from the garden with people dilly departing, school reparting. I'm harder than Miles, as hard as I'm back of milk cartons. So it was.
Thanks, amazing.
So that was supposed to mimic a rap by Big Pun. I don't know if I could do it, but he was like, dead in the middle of little diddly, no little the middleman who didn't do diddly. And I thought that was one of I may have gotten it wrong a little bit there, but that was like, it's from this song called Deep Cover. It's one of the best I've ever heard in my life. So I just wanted to pay homage to that.
Dead in the middle of little did we know that we riddle to middleman who didn't do diddly. Here to be a cold day and how the day I take it now. Make no mistake, for real, I wouldn't hesitate to...
Thank you again for this amazing performance.
Thank you.
And sorry for pushing you so hard to make you rap. Talking about rappers, and unfortunately this is rappers, sorry for this transition, but I read that Lisa Left Eye Lopes from the group TLC saved your life. Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, I was about, I want to say 14 years old. But before that, I was a huge TLC fan, like just huge. Yeah. Like, and this was when TLC was like the biggest girl group of all time. Like, Beyonce was opening for TLC. That's how big TLC was. Let's just put that in perspective. You know, she was their opening act. Her group, Destiny's Child, they were the opening act. But I was a huge fan of TLC. But I was in a weird time because I was in middle school. And I was being bullied a lot, and it really affected my self-esteem. And it got so bad, the bullying did, that my mom took me out of school and homeschooled me. But it was still something that affected me mentally and emotionally to the point I was suicidal at, like 13, 14 years old. And one day I almost tried to take my life. I locked myself in the bathroom, and I took my Walkman CD player in there with me, and I sat there on the floor, and I was just crying, and all of a sudden TLC's song Waterfalls comes on, and Left Eye's rap came on, and for the first time I really listened to it. And at the end she said, dreams are hopeless aspirations and hopes of coming true. Believe in yourself, the rest is up to me and you. And I realized, wow, I have all these hopes and dreams and aspirations. I want to be an author. I want to write books. I want to write books that become movies. I want to be a producer. I can't see those things happen if I take my life. So I didn't do anything. And I came out of the bathroom and I told my mom how that song affected me. And my mom was like, well, if the song did this for you, I can only imagine what meeting her or talking to her would do. So I don't know how my mom got the number to Left Eye, her studio. And I just have to point this out. We later found out her studio was at her house. So my mom, I guess she went on it was AskJeeves.com back then. It was like the original Google. And she found the number to Left Eye's studio, and she talked to her assistant and told her what I'd been going through and how her rap affected me. And she said if she could just talk to her for a few minutes, I know it would make a difference. So I was in another part of the house watching television, and my mom comes in and she's like, someone wants to talk to you. And I'm thinking, oh, it's a relative, like a old aunt or uncle somewhere that I got to tell them how I'm doing. You know, the usual thing. So I take the phone, I'm like, hello. And she goes, hey, it's Left Eye. And I freaked out. I lost my mind. I ran around the house screaming, oh my God, oh my God. But when I calmed down and got on the phone, she talked to me, and she told me my mom had told her a little bit about what I'd been going through, and she was like, do you want to talk about it? And here's this woman, member of the biggest girl group of all time, never met me, but took the time out to speak to this little 13-year-old kid and listen to me and let me tell her about my problems. And after she listened, she was like, you have to keep going. She says, I don't know you, but I think that you may do something great one day. And if you take your life, you won't see that happen. So I need for you to keep going. And those words stayed with me, and they kept me going. She passed away months after that, but that stayed with me. And just knowing that somebody like her took the time out to speak with me made me feel a little more seen and heard. So in a lot of ways, yeah, she saved my life.
Claim the insane and ain't to stay in time for falling prey to crime. I say the system got you victim to your own mind. Dreams are hopeless aspirations and hopes are coming true. Believe in yourself, the rest is up to me and you. Go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and the lakes.
I know you're a strong believer too.
Yes.
You mentioned church and your religion in your books and the interviews. Right now, with all the success that you had, I think you might be reinforced in the idea that you have a mission maybe about spreading your voice and sharing your experience.
Yeah. You know, people are like, wait, she's a Christian, blah, 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 because I have so much cursing in my book. And I say it all the time. I love Jesus, but I cuss, as he still loves me. But, you know, I think for me, my mission is with young people and encouraging them and showing them themselves and validating them and helping them find their voice. I never want to say that I am their voice. I'd rather be their microphone. You know, I want to amplify what they feel and make people aware of it, but also show them how awesome they are being their true, authentic selves and helping them learn to define themselves. So I feel like that's my mission, or my quote-unquote ministry, if I have one. But it also, too, just making people aware of lives beyond their own. I've had so many people say that the hate you give opened their eyes, changed their perspectives, made them more aware of others, gave them more empathy, helped them understand why we say Black Lives Matter, gave them more insight into police brutality, and that's a big thing. So if what I do empowers someone, or it can encourage someone or give someone some more empathy, then I've done my mission.
In your two books, the parents have their own issue, but they always take time and devotion to help their children and give them advice. Did your parents give you the talk about police brutality when you were a kid?
I got the talk, but it wasn't from my parents. It was from my cousin, who was a cop. And that surprises a lot of people. My cousin was a police officer in Jackson, Mississippi, and he understood that some of his fellow officers tended to abuse their power. And he sat me down one day and told me what to do if I was ever stopped by a police officer. Say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Keep my hands visible where they can see them. No sudden moves, only speak when spoken to. So, yeah, I got the talk from a cop.
How old were you?
I was about 10 years old.
10 years old?
Yes. Yeah, and that's the sad thing about it. In America, parents are having to have these conversations. Black parents are having these conversations with their 8-year-olds, with their 9, 10, 11-year-olds. You know, Tamir Rice was 12 years old. Trayvon Martin was 17. We're talking about children at the end of the day. So, yeah, I was 10.
How did you react then?
You know, at the time, it was something I kept in the back of my head, but I was 10, and it didn't hit me just how serious it was. I wasn't as aware of police brutality at 10 as some of my friends were. I had been lucky in the sense that I'd never come across it. I'd never had encounters with it. I hadn't had family members who had encounters with it. But as I got older, I realized, oh, those things he was telling me, they are meant to help save my life. They're not just rules to help me be a good citizen. No, these are life-saving guidelines to follow.
I heard that at 6 you witnessed a shooting?
Yes. Yeah, I was at the neighborhood park when I was 6 years old, me and some of my friends in the neighborhood, and these two drug dealers started shooting at one another. They were shooting across the playground where us kids were playing. And so fortunately, me and none of my friends were injured. We all escaped that day. And when I got to my mom, and my mom, she knew what happened because our house was just a few doors down from the park. She, when she saw that I was unharmed, she put me in the car and took me to the library, and she told the librarian what had just happened. And she said she wanted me to know that there was more to the world than what I saw that day, and more to the world than our neighborhood. And she couldn't afford to put me on a plane and send me to Paris, but she could give me a book. Not yet. But she could get me a book. So she asked the librarian to give me books so that I could see more of the world. And that's when I became a reader. So that librarian, she loaded me up with books. And that was the day that really the spark was lit.
Can we listen to another song?
Yeah.
Did you hear about the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete?
Yeah.
What can you tell me about this text?
Oh, that song was made using a poem that Tupac Shakur wrote when he was 16 or 17 years old, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. And honestly, it was a metaphor for himself. It was a autobiographical. Yeah, it was a poem about himself. But it was also a poem to describe a lot of young people in this world. When you think about the idea of a rose growing in the crack in the concrete, you know, if you were walking down the sidewalk here in Paris and there was a rose growing out of the concrete, you would be in awe of that. And that in a lot of ways describes a lot of young people around us every single day. They're living in concrete and they're roses, but we're not taking the time to recognize their beauty and their strength and their resilience. The fact that they are brilliant enough and unique enough to grow in such awful circumstances and conditions that weren't meant for them to succeed. We should pay more attention to that. So that's what that poem is about. I think it's one of the most beautiful images I've ever heard from a poet.
In one of your books, you dedicate your books to the roses that grew from the concrete. Mm-hmm. One of the other things I like about your books is that you address really modern topics that we are not used to see in the young adult novels, such as homosexuality, gentrification, police brutality, or looking at men's asses.
You're the second journalist here in Paris to mention that to me.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, maybe the French are so uncomfortable with male Botox. Shout out to the other one.
Yes.
Why do you feel like it's important for you to address these topics? And I'm not mentioning the last one.
Don't mention the last one. You know, it's important for me to talk about these things because these are the things my readers are dealing with, you know. This is nothing against the classics such as To Kill a Mockingbird or whatever required reading young people are being assigned. There's nothing against those books, but they don't connect with those books because those books don't reflect their world. So why not give them books that reflect where they are right now, who they are right now, what they're dealing with right now. I think it's important because if you can see yourself reflected back through a book, you can see what you're capable of doing. You can see the strength that resides in you, the power that resides in you. So why not celebrate that? So it's for me, I want to write about young people and what they're dealing with now, whatever that may look like, even if it makes adults uncomfortable.
That's one of the other things that I like about your books. They are like little time capsules because you make a ton of references, really precise references. You mentioned the Marvel movies, the Drake mixtapes, the hopeful sneaker resellers.
Yeah.
And why is it important for you to put a timestamp on your stories?
You know, it's
From the same idea?
Yeah, it's definitely for the same reason, to show young people where they are right now. You know, I've had people say, oh, aren't you afraid that's going to date your books? And I'm okay with that, you know, because guess what? A lot of the classics that you're reading right now read as being very dated. You know, if you hand a kid a book from the 80s, like if you hand most kids, even books before that, if you hand them a book like The Outsiders, you know, set in the 50s, there are references in there that they do not understand, but they can look back at that point in time and see what life was like. So I'm okay with, you know, 15, 20 years from now, young people picking up my book and realizing, oh, so this is what it was like back then, even though, no, that wasn't that long ago, but it's a glimpse into the world right now. Why not capture the world we're in right now and with all of its nuances and with all of the little pop culture references? Why not do that and celebrate where we are now so that young people even in the future can see it?
The Hate You Give has been adapted as a movie successfully.
Yes.
On a Come Up will be adapted as a movie too. The characters of the two stories live in the same city. Are you planning to create your own Thomas cinematic universe?
You know, I'm coming from Marvel. You know, yeah, I hope to an extent. There are other projects that I have in mind and that I'm working on that I would love to do that explore that world a little more. So yeah, I for me, Garden Heights represents neighborhoods, not just in America, but even all around the world that are often overlooked or that people make assumptions about. The neighborhoods that people drive through without ever taking the time to understand what it's like to really be a person living there. You know, you're on the outside looking in. Well, let me take you inside. So I want to explore the different stories that can come from a place like that, because not all the young people in those communities are the same. Not all their journeys are going to be the same. Not all their stories are going to be the same.
As a conclusion to this interview, I'd like to play you one last song.
Okay.
This is The World Is Yours by Nas.
Okay.
What does it represent to you? And what does it mean to hear it in Paris right now?
That means a lot. I remember hearing that song for the first time and feeling as if Nas was speaking to me and describing something that I felt but couldn't put to words, you know, feeling as if the world was mine, if it was something that I could conquer one day, you know, I could be my own Napoleon. But no, now that I'm in the position that I'm in, I wouldn't say that I feel like the world is mine, but I feel like the world is more available to me. And what I mean by that is I'm able to see it. You know, I got to see the Eiffel Tower yesterday. I don't know if the world is mine, but right now the world is available.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.
The world is yours. The world is yours. It's mine. It's mine. Whose world is this? It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. Whose world is this? The world is yours. The world is yours.